Everyone can be seated.
We need a client.
They still bring up Mr. Adelson.
Yeah.
All right, for everyone in the gallery, once the verdict is read, if there can please be no expressions, either of shock or anger, please have no reaction at all. We're going to thank the jury for their service, and then they'll be dismissed. But again, it's very important not to either praise them or be negative concerning whatever the outcome of this is going to be. If you don't think you can control yourself, please step outside now so it does not become an issue. Jury comes in, remain seated. Everyone else, please rise. Everyone but the foreperson can be seated. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you please could hand the verdict form to the bailiff. The verdict form is in its proper order. Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Second Judicial Circuit in and for Leon County, Florida, the State of Florida versus Charles Adelson, case number 2016 CF 3036B, verdict. Count 1. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2 of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 3. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3 of the indictment: solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. So say we all this 6th day of November, 2023.
Does the defense wish for the court to poll the jurors?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror Moore, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes.
Juror Brazos, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
It was.
Juror Gardner, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes.
Juror Strong, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Kraft, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror Milne, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Hawley, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Thorne, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Brim, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Williams, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, sir.
Juror Douglas, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror Platt, was your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole just announced?
Yes, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, I'm going to give you one last brief instruction, and from here you will be discharged from your service. On behalf of the parties, the lawyers, and the people of the state of Florida, I want to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I'm also going to advise you of some special privileges that are enjoyed by jurors. No juror can be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain a private affair for as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. The lawyers and their representatives are not permitted to initiate any communication with you concerning the trial. However, you may speak to the lawyers or anyone else about the trial if you desire. You also have the right to refuse to speak with anyone. A request may come from those who are simply curious or from those who might seek to find fault with this decision. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. We give you our sincere thanks for the work that you have performed over this 2-week trial. You are discharged. Have a wonderful evening. You may be seated. Mr. Adelson, you are going to be remanded pending sentencing at this time. Does the defense wish to have a pre-sentence investigation report prepared as to counts 2 and 3?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. The court will order that the pre-sentence investigation be prepared by the Department of Corrections. I believe it will take possibly a month. I'm not sure if it will take longer than that. From there, will the parties be prepared to move into sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor. May I have a moment to confer with the family?
If they wish to make any impact statements tonight,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Prepared to present victim impact tonight, but as you know, the family members have traveled a great distance, so we're hoping Your Honor will permit them to appear and make those statements by Zoom whenever we're reconvening for sentencing.
That will be permitted. Anyone who wishes to provide testimony for the sentencing portion may do so over Zoom. I believe this does not implicate any right of confrontation unless the defense has something to raise concerning that matter.
No, Your Honor.
Very well. We are in recess at this point. Oh, yes. We are going to wait until the jurors have vacated the courthouse, and from there, everyone will be dismissed. Let's go ahead and set a case management date as a status. This will ensure that we have the PSI in place That will be on December 12th at 2:30 in the afternoon. If everything is prepared, we can go ahead and have the final disposition on that day as well.